Hey guys, Drift0r here. Today I'm bringing you a very close game on Arkaden. I ended up playing against a fellow YouTuber and subscriber called Swayze. His channel is iSwayze with a 4. I put a link down there in the description somewhere so you can go check it out. He recognized me from YouTube and told the rest of his team, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy." And they went to my channel and started watching videos, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we know the gamer tag and the guy and the thing." And in the previous match, I got stamped. I went in rolling some not very good kind of guns, working on some in-depth footage or like a kooky gameplay or something, and these guys wanted to show me how good they were at Call of Duty, and it was very, very bad, and me and my team got stamped very, very hard, and it was embarrassing. And then after that, there was a lot of discussion, like, "Oh, I don't know if that's the real Drift0r, he played really bad, a lot of these people on his team weren't very good. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can go for a pistol-only Moab." It was really only one guy talking trash, but he was talking it pretty heavily. So in this game, we decided that we were definitely not going to win, that we were going to play as hard as we possibly could and put our try-hard panties on. And what happened is we had a very, very close, very aggressive and well-played game on Arkaden here. My score is not super impressive in this game, but the overall gameplay is very, very fun. It was a very fun game to play because you can see how close it is. And after this game, we played them again, one more game of Try Hard Panties, and we won. So I'd say we won 2 out of 3, and then I had to go because I had to help my wife do things. But anyway, that's enough explanation. Let's skip into what this commentary is actually about, and that's addiction, or more specifically, my addiction. Now, the thing that I'm addicted to is much, much less serious than what any other person is probably going to be addicted to. So when I do this commentary, I don't mean to do it in any sort of demeaning or belittling way, just sort of a personal story here. So if you have some sort of hardcore addiction, please don't take this personally. Now, the thing that I'm addicted to, believe it or not, is ice cream, or sweets in general, but mostly ice cream. All sorts of ice cream. I don't know what it is, I just cannot stop eating ice cream. I'm a very straight-laced, square kind of individual due to addiction problems in my family, more or less ruining the family. So I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke pot, I don't do any other kind of drugs. I try to avoid painkillers, try to avoid caffeinated products until I really, really need them. Anything that I know that's addictive, except for sweets and sugar, and more specifically creams and chocolates, I can't help myself. I crave them all the fucking time. Very rarely is there ever a time that I don't want or need some sort of chocolate or creamy, delicious vanilla treat. And this is obviously not healthy for me. It's not good for the diabetes that runs in my family or in the area as well. Mississippi's very, very heavy in diabetes, or for my waistline. While I don't eat ridiculous portions of food and I'm fairly active, both my job as a student and as a commentator requires me to sit in front of the computer a lot, so my waistline has a tendency to take a hit from all the sweets. It looks like I've got a small beer belly, but it's really more like an ice cream belly. With any sort of addiction, you have two different components going on. That is chemical and psychological. There are a lot of substances that make very real chemical changes in your brain. They rework your neural pathways. I'm not a neurochemist or even a neurologist, so I don't know the details on this. I'm trying to recall them offhand. I probably should have referenced this part of Wikipedia before doing the commentary. But they changes your brain in a way to where you can't turn it off, to where the chemicals in your brain are set to make you desire more of these things. That's the really hard drugs. That's nicotine's actually one of them. Cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines especially. They make you desire this more than anything else, more than pleasure, more than pain, more than income, more than friendships, love, and it really, really destroys brains or people, because I guess a person is a brain. There's also usually a psychological component of any sort of addiction, a sort of dependency, a misplaced coping mechanism, if you will. I have a hard life and I really like to get high, or I'm fat and help me feel better about being fat. I like to eat, and lots of things like this that's psychological, which can be just as hard to break as the chemical. The chemical is a more straightforward process as long as your biology is normal and you're healthy. The psychological addiction, especially the coping mechanisms, are very, very hard to unteach and unlearn, and that's just unfortunate. Now let's move on to my addiction about ice cream, because I know both of these. The chemical one is that there is such a thing as sugar addiction, or so saith Wikipedia and a handful of other Google sites that I checked up on. It's a very weak form of addiction, but it does, I believe it alters the morphine pathway. I can't remember what pathway it is, but it works in the same DSM-4 pathway that a lot of other narcotics do, but in a much milder sense. And they did this study with rats. They gave rats sugar water and then tried to give them regular water and monitored how they behaved. And when they didn't get their sugar, they started behaving erratically. They wanted their sugar. Essentially, it created a sugar dependency in the rats, and that was the basis of this study. So I've got that, and I know it. I want to eat something sweet every day. Peaches and fruits and shit, that doesn't count. I want cream. I want whipped cream. I want chocolate. I want caramel. That's the sort of stuff that I desire. So that's unfortunate. But the real thing is it's psychological for me. I don't know what it is about sugar, but I'm going to start at the very beginning. For as long as I can remember, I was raised either by my grandparents or my mother. Now, my grandparents come from a Depression-era society where food is very, very scarce, very limited, so they encourage people, especially me as a young child, to eat as much as I possibly can. Like in the 90s, they're acting like food's running out of style, so I have to eat and eat and eat and eat, and chocolate and desserts are the rarest and most expensive and valuable things on earth. And then, after a big divorce thing, I went to go live with my mom, and in my mom's world, she was a health freak. While she is very, very mentally unfit now and physically unfit now, back in the early 90s, she was considered to be a model, the very peak of human fitness. Ate pretty much nothing but vegetables, very little meat. Every now and then she'd get a big hankering for a steak and eat like one steak a year, but other than that, it was almost exclusively vegetarian, always wanting to eat and cook the healthiest things and exercise all the time. So I went straight from my gluttonous grandparents to my health freak mother, and I had a very hard adaptation leaving behind the meats and the sweets of my childhood and going to a mostly vegetable sort of meal. Now, my mother didn't make me do the vegetarian thing, but there were no sweets in the house, and I mean there were just no sweets, and I ate no desserts at all for years and years and years and years, and it was very rare and very weird when I got something sweet. I still had some, of course. You can't completely remove that from a child, but pretty much none for a long, long time. And then, due to another bad situation, I ended up moving back with my dad and grandparents, respectively, and my eating habits had changed over all those years, where I didn't really want the sweets, and they'd try and give them to me, but it didn't really take. Of course, I had some cakes and some expensive stuff on birthdays, and, but I would say my sugar intake was about once per week, or less than that, sometimes maybe like twice a month, and even then, just very, very little. And it stayed like that for a very long time, and I was healthy, and I didn't eat sweets, I didn't crave sweets, it just wasn't a part of who I was. Well, that began to change when I got my first, what I would call, real job. I worked at a place in Greenwood, Mississippi called Quinn Roofing Company. They do really good roofs because they do every single thing by hand. There's no nail guns, there's no machine work. It's all like old school manual labor. Very, very extremely hard work. You work 10, 11-hour days in the Mississippi heat shoveling black tar. It was really difficult, and I got really hot. Drank gallons upon gallons upon gallons of water every single day, and Gatorade and lemonade and everything that I could shovel down my gullet, and it just never really completely satisfied me. I was always hungry and always craving more, and near the end of my employment there, which I voluntarily ended a little bit early because I was just damn sick of working there because it was too hard on my weak self, I had to go fill up the gas in my truck, and it just so happened that there was a Baskin-Robbins ice cream store in the gas station. And I'm sweating and hot and tired and nasty, and I was like, Baskin-Robbins ice cream. That actually sounds great right now. I'm going to get some Baskin-Robbins ice cream. So I go in there and look at all the things available, and previously I'd never really eaten much in the way of ice cream, especially. And even when I did, because of where I lived and my grandparents and my mother's limited desire on the ice cream, it was just like vanilla or chocolate or strawberry, and that was really about it. There were no other flavors going on in my life, and they had this giant wall of flavors that assaulted my senses, and I was like, I want caramel, praline, pecan, sugary meltdown. I forget what it was called, but I sat there and I ate it, and it was fucking delicious. I'd been so thirsty, so hot, so tired all day, and it was the most relieving thing I think I had ever had in my life. And it was so relieving, as a matter of fact, I went back the next day and got some, and the day after that and got some, and the day after that I got a different flavor, and it wasn't but about a month or two after that I came here to Mississippi State University, which is very close to a Cold Stone Creamery, which, if you don't know, is an expensive ice cream place, and people were like, oh, you gotta try it, and even then I wasn't really into it. I was like, I don't really need the ice cream. They got me to try it, and it was great! It was better than Baskin-Robbins, oh my god. And it was also the first time in my life that I had discretionary income to cook and spend for my own meals and food as I saw fit. So, you know, when I was hot and tired, I was like, you know, I'll get some ice cream with my food. I'll get a brownie a la mode, and it continued and continued and continued until my body actually built up the chemical desire to have sugar all the time, along with the psychological comfort desire of, oh, you've worked really hard, you've earned this, this isn't that bad for you, you'll worry about your arteries when you're 30. You know what, when you turn 21, that's when you're officially old. You'll stop eating all this food and everything will be fine. Oh, you know, you don't worry about diabetes until you're 50 and you have a paunch and all this sort of stuff. And it just continued and continued, and I ate more and more sweets and different varieties and chocolates and candies. And now that I'm nearing 25 years old, I'm still 24 right now, I realize that this is a very bad problem. Now that I'm married, especially, me and my wife eat pretty much every single meal together unless we're apart for school or work or something. And she grew up in a household where there was a store, where there was unlimited sweets, and it wasn't really a special thing for her at all. And on top of that, her family taught her to eat fruits and vegetables and like this as a dessert. So it's kind of blowing my mind, and I'm trying very hard right now to stop eating sugary snacks, but it's incredibly hard because every single time I drive down the road, there's like 5 different restaurants like, ooh, do you want frozen yogurt? Ooh, do you want frozen custard? Do you want a cake? Look at here, it's a donut shop. Let's go get some more sweet stuff. And I know I don't eat it, but in my brain and my body, I crave it, and I just gotta have it, and I'm trying really, really hard to cut back on eating sugary sweets and ice cream in particular, but it's just going very, very poorly for obvious reasons. The most obvious reason because I like this stuff and I think it's delicious, but I'm getting a little bit repetitive now. The only uplifting kind of thing I'd like to say here at the end of the video without being condescending and pick up this triple kill is that if you do have a serious addiction, if you are hooked on some sort of really, really hard drug, you have to consider what that does to your family. And I can't sit here and lecture you like I'm addicted to anything because ice cream's pretty stupid, but I did grow up in a family of addicts with aunts and uncles and mothers and extended families that got addicted to all sorts of really bad chemicals, and to be dependent on that is very, very bad, and it really hurts your family life. As a matter of fact, it can completely ruin a family. So I would recommend that you try and slowly wean yourself off of anything you're addicted to that's bad for you, even if it's something stupid like pretzels. Drift0r out.